Get out of the way, kid.
We are testing the camera. We are testing the camera. Testing, 1, 2.
Hey!
See, now you've just outshone me.
Hey, it's Geek Dad and the Merman here in our very
The
first
Merman,
maiden
I'm not
podcast.
I'm not the Merman.
Let's hear it.
I have another name. It will be.
We are recording.
We are recording. We are officially recording. This is good B-roll. This is good B-roll.
Hello, denizens of the internet. I'm Geek Dad. And this is my good friend.
Merman. That's the name. It's a work in progress.
Work in progress, the Merman. It's
Yeah.
subject to change.
Subject to change.
And welcome to our maiden video. Now, this is such a maiden video. Our account, we haven't even made an account. And the show doesn't even have a name, but it's a work in progress, so, we can tack that on later on.
Yeah, so maybe we could take suggestions about what our names could be, or it could be in perpetuity a nameless show. I'm not sure what would be the best business decision, but that's a good suggestion.
Keep the suggestions tasteful. Okay, so you might be asking, why do we need yet another video of two grown children talking about pop culture?
Well, speak for yourself. I'm not that old just yet. I'm only 24. Look, I understand that there are so many YouTube channels out right now, and everybody's got an opinion. But how often do those commentators say that their opinion is actually useless? So maybe, I'm just saying that would be more useful information. Because I felt my biggest issue with YouTube channels and gaming channels has been, you've got these backdoor, sort of backyard projects, and they really, their opinions come out of nowhere. It's just, well, I don't really like this, but it's not really well thought out. It doesn't have any serious background. It's just pie in the sky ideas, which I've always hated when I've watched YouTube channels, and I feel a lot of the time that's responsible for a lot of the flaming that goes on, because if one person has an opinion about something that isn't well thought out, and all the audience has a whole bunch of different opinions, and I'm probably going to disagree on this, you're probably going to disagree on this, but I really think there's like an objective truth you can find with a lot of games. I think you can find games that are objectively horrible, and there are games that are objectively bad, but unfortunately there's no consensus on that.
I actually agree with you. I'm not disagreeing, because I want to take a lot of the politics out of geek culture, and my motivation is I've been watching lots and lots of videos, and so many of them are just negative. You think, do these people even like what they're talking about? They've been dogging on Star Trek and Star Wars and Doctor Who, and it's just video after video of negative rants. And by all means, I'm going to criticize things that I think are rubbish. However, I want to bring a bit of enthusiasm back into it, so that it's not just, a whinge session.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of it is political, but that I feel is a consequence of YouTube comment systems and like how the algorithms work. But personally, I feel it doesn't need to go there. It is a bit difficult to avoid though, because I feel like a lot of games are inherently political, and how they're marketed. If you look at a lot of AAA games, how they're marketed, they will use a lot of pop culture events to one example that would be Far Cry 5, where it was marketed as this, the premise of the game was that there's a cult of, Southern worshippers, and this was post 2016, and they were pretty, all
the rednecks with the beards and the shaved heads.
So sometimes it's difficult to avoid all that, and a lot of the time, again, it just comes down to what the discourse around a game is. If a lot of this politics stuff is invested after the piece of work has been made to begin with, so it doesn't. I don't think it inherently needs to be political. That being said, I do think there are some things that you could arguably say are political, but like there are certain issues you could say that are political that a game may deal with, but for me, I just think of that more as the ideas that take part within the themes of a genre of games. It's not. It doesn't really have to. You know, I don't really want to have to talk about gender politics or any of that stuff when it comes to games. As long as it's fun, I think nobody really has an issue with it.
Well, either way, we're Australians, so a lot of that American politics, we can actually offer quite an objective outsider's perspective on that.
Yeah, we could.
We didn't vote for or against Trump. We really don't care. We just watch and enjoy ourselves and, you know, think, gee, what a spectacle. We enjoy watching the circus or watching it burn.
Yeah.
Anyway, interesting that you're talking about gaming, because I want to talk about games, and I have a confession to make. Unfortunately, even though I self-style myself as Geek Dad, I'm a counterfeit geek. I'm a phony. Despite medieval reenactment, my obsession with cinema, despite collecting mountains of comic books, despite collecting action figures, despite indoctrinating my son in the Marvel and DC universe, there is an aspect of geek culture that has eluded me, and that is gaming.
Well, look, I can't blame you because it is an incredibly expensive hobby to be part of. But that being said, I didn't have to worry about that growing up. My first foray into gaming was when I was 4 or 5, and that would have been in 1999. I remember I played StarCraft. Yeah, you were in high school at that time.
No, I graduated from high school.
You graduated? Oh, okay, even worse. And it was StarCraft, and I remember. I mean, most people don't really like RTS games. I mean, it's a popular genre, but it's very difficult to get into. And I feel the reason why is because it's got pretty complicated mechanics. At least it's got a high level of entry. Cognitively, to play the game, you need to take part in you need to use a lot of different mechanics. Just tech trees alone are very complicated. But just sitting down and watching my brothers, hours on hours, play StarCraft, I had total command of the tech trees. If I wanted to build an Archon, when I was 5, I knew how to do that. If I wanted to mind control some Zerglings, I knew how to do that at that age. But it was really getting in early that built up my literacy. And I'm sort of I'm inverse to you. Like, a lot of the geek culture, the comic books, the literature side of it, I didn't really take stuff like that. I would have loved to take part in, but video games was it was a cheaper alternative. It was an accessible alternative because my literacy when I was young wasn't very good. So it was very easy to jump into a game and be immersed in it. And so but that being said, it was an expensive subculture. It was an expensive hobby because I remember saving $5 every week. When I was in high school or when I was in primary school, and at the end of the year I'd have 150, 200 that I could splurge on games. And if I had 6 games I could buy for Christmas, then that would be worth it. And I'd suck on that for the next year until I could beg my mum for more money. But yeah, that's my background. I'm strictly a hardcore gamer. So I think the technical. The technical qualification for that is more than 20 hours a week of gameplay, and I think a lot of the time. I know, but there are games where, especially RPGs, if you get hooked on them, they will demand more than that. They'll demand 50.
They're
60.
a harsh mistress.
They're very, very harsh, very harsh. You will skip showers, and I think every gamer has had a story about that.
I used to be like that with all my webcomics and digital cartoons and things like that, so I'm staying up till midnight getting a cartoon finished, posted on DeviantArt, so that was great. But back to gaming. So I wasn't totally oblivious to it. Of course, my friends had the old Sega Mega Drive in the early 90s, and it was all time zone in the arcades. And so I remember being given the option by my parents. My dad and my mum, they said to me and my sister, we'll get you a Sega Mega Drive, but you've got to share it. And we said, no, we want our own presents. And I must have gotten, I don't know, I think it must have been Star Trek The Next Generation action figures and the Battle Master
Good choice.
Box set, which was like a precursor to Warhammer. And so then it just sort of came and went. Gen 4 went. And, I'd played a bit of Sonic and Mortal Kombat and things like that. And the arcades, I don't know, because I was no good, you'd put your money in, you'd die, and then I'd be like, man, that was a waste. So I'd save my money for comic books. That's what I was doing.
Yeah, that
But
makes sense.
the reason why I'm talking about this is because I have just gotten into gaming. And I guess I can thank parenthood for that.
Yeah, oh yeah. It's you are in a really unique position where all the hard work has already been done, and all you have to do is consume. It reminds me of when I discovered Game of Thrones in 2012, and everybody was bothering me to do it. Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you playing games? Why aren't you watching Game of Thrones? And I thought, well, it's there. I don't need there's no rush. And when I got to it, I had 3 seasons that I could chew on, and it was sumptuous. It was decadent. And you don't have 3 years worth of seasons. You've got 20 years. 20 years of games that to you, every one you play is cutting edge technology. And so I'd warn against jumping ahead in the generation just so you can develop a bit of perspective and savour all those games you missed out on, because I feel it's a lot like PC gaming. If you start as a PC gamer, you become, it's very easy to get spoiled to, the visual fidelity, the graphics, the frame rate, the ease of use of certain mechanics, the gameplay. There's so many developments that happen over such a short period of time that I would not be able to deal without it. If I had to go back and play some of the RPGs that you're playing now, like Oblivion, I would pull my hair out, because at the time that was a revolutionary game, and it was my favorite game. I mean, I loved it, and this was post Lord of the Rings. It gave you everything you want. This is a fantasy RPG. You can shoot. You can be an elf. You can be an orc. You can be a Nord. You can be whatever you want.
You can be that lizard woman that I'm playing.
Yeah. You can be the lizard woman, and you can wield a katana and murder people and be inducted into an assassin organization. You can brave the depths of hell. It's just, and Patrick Stewart is in the game. You're so spoiled on that. But if I had to go back and play that game now, I would hate it. I'd hate it so much, because Skyrim's come out, The Witcher's come out. There are so many frog leaps in game design, in every aspect that can make a game great, that I can't. I don't know how you do it, but I think it's just because it's new to you.
It's new to me. And I can understand where you're coming from, because I could imagine going back to movies from the early 2000s and you look at the revolutionary CGI in them, and it just looks bad. It's aged.
Yeah, I can't watch the Bridge of Khazad-dûm when Gandalf fights the Balrog, because as soon as he falls down the pit, I can tell that's a green screen. But now they've got tech where, if you do see a green screen in movies, the reaction is, that's lazy.
Yeah.
Why didn't they?
You shouldn't see the special effect.
Yeah,
you know it's a special effect. The whole idea of a special effect is it's special.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's supposed to. It's integrated well, but now it's again. I'm spoiled on that, and so you've got that lens with movies, but with video games, you just savor it before you touch God of War.
I know, I'm gutsing myself. Sort of where to start. That was my issue. So basically, this year I had the situation where I had lots of time-consuming hobbies, especially before parenthood. Medieval reenactment, webcomics, you name it, I was doing it. And I just ran out of time. And there's nothing more time consuming than, having a family. And the time you do have is fragmented. So I was thinking, what could I do that doesn't involve having to drive somewhere or set something up, because, my son loves my Warhammer figures. He wants to grab them and hold them and own them, and they're too expensive to give away to a kid. And then it hit me. I was looking through a Big W catalogue, and they had a whole lot of video game consoles, and they're actually talking about the Super Nintendo Classic. And I was looking at that and I was thinking, you know what, wouldn't it be cool to jump into gaming but not skip all the good legacy games that have gone before me, to do it almost chronologically. And prior to that, I'd been goofing around with Space Invaders on Flash games on the internet. That didn't last long. But what I ended up doing was getting the PlayStation Classic. Apparently it's a dud. It was $40 from JB Hi-Fi, and it's got itself 20 games, and I started playing them. And see, because I didn't know any better, I didn't realise, that what was missing. It doesn't have Tomb Raider, it doesn't have Crash Bandicoot, but it has Tekken 3, and I I've been playing the hell out of that. You know, I went to work with you and we played a little bit of it, and you taught me how to mash the keypad and not think and just hit.
That was one of the moments where I thought, because, I mean, well, we worked together and I always think of you as a very competent workmate, but then there was that moment where I thought you fundamentally do not understand how to play a video game, and it's because, I mean, I've spent so much time playing games now that you can see there's a sort of there's a language to how games are made. It's very harmonious in terms of how I understand it and how I interact with games, that I could pick up anything and then I could transpose skills.
Got that gaming literacy.
Yeah,
It's gaming
literacy. Yeah, and so there was a point where you were
remedial
playing
gamer.
Rayman Legends, and
I was stuck. I was like, how do I get past this thing? And
I've never played Rayman Legends, but I've played a lot of Metroidvania side scrollers. And oh my god! And if you do build a PC or you do get the new generation of consoles, I really want you to play Ori and the Blind Forest, because that is one of the most beautiful games I've ever played in my life, and I think you'd really appreciate it just from it's something you could play with Clancy as well. But yeah, like when you were playing that game, it was. And I hadn't played it before, it was just obvious to me, well, the game has given you the ability to punch. It's given you the ability to jump. And there's something up that you probably have to combine those two things. But, and it wasn't just forming that thought, it was executing it. Which was, am I supposed to press those two buttons at once? It's just.
I was like, is there a bug in the game? What's going on?
Yeah, exactly. But I remember those frustrations when I was playing. It was anger inducing. And games are stoic things. They don't care about your feelings. They are not sentient. And so when you hit a roadblock, it causes migraines. The emotion running through you. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, I just said to myself, the game's cheating. Like, it's cheating. It's not fair. It's trying to, and I have just developed these superstitions. Or maybe if I jump 3 times in this area and then just mash this rhythm, this order, maybe that'll do something. Maybe I can glitch to get past a section in the game. But the fact that you have to deal with that, for me, I'm getting sympathy pains from it. But I'm glad that I can be there. And it's not just that. It's also just using the
coordination.
And I feel that's going to take 3 years. That's going to take 3 years for you to get used to.
The gaming logic. I'm starting to find myself applying lessons that I learned from one game into another game now. And so it's slowly building up. And so what happened was, I played the PlayStation Classic for a while, but I was tempted with some of the newer games. And I didn't want to jump straight into a PS4 or an Xbox One because I didn't want an expensive hobby. I've already got too many expensive hobbies. I've sunk heaps of money into so many different things.
Wasn't the worst choice because they don't have any particularly good games on those systems.
And I also, I don't know, I didn't really want the hassle of an online account and downloads. I'm old-fashioned. I am, physical copy. And so I just wanted basically to plug in the machine, stick in the disc and play. Plug and play. I also love the idea of getting secondhand stuff. And so that's exactly where I went. I got myself must have been only 6 weeks ago, a secondhand PS3. And I went to the sex shop. So I picked it up and I got a few discs. And one of the first games that I've been playing is Conan.
Yeah.
And so I've been enjoying it. I've been cutting off people's arms.
Yeah, I haven't played those games before. So for me, I was an Xbox person. So a lot of this stuff is almost there's this sort of corporate subculture that you become inducted into. Are you an Xbox person?
One
or
or the
PC? Or are you a PS3 or are you a Nintendo? So a lot of these games, with the exception of Elder Scrolls, because everybody's played that, I've had no experience playing these games. I mean, I've played the new iteration of Tomb Raider, but they're nothing like. I mean, it's not really a platformer. It's AAA platforming now in action adventure games. It sort of pushes you through a tunnel, and it doesn't really get you to think. It wouldn't be the same to the classic Tomb Raider trilogy. But a lot of this stuff, you've got that on me. Just just because you've got the time and you've got the patience to go back to all this retro
I
tech.
don't have the time, I'm afraid.
Oh, you don't have the time.
See, I've got eyes bigger than my belly, so in this 6 weeks since getting the PS3, I have bought 40 games. And so I've gone to EB Games and the sex shop, and I've pretty much bought a lot of the cheapies. But these were great games when they came out. Like, I'd walk past the game shops years ago and I'd see the poster and I'd think, I was always curious about that. And so these 40 games averaged out at $9, $9 each. So that's 40 games for $360. And I've got Tekken, Mortal Kombat, I've got God of War, Assassin's Creed, I've got myself Mass Effect, Duke Nukem, Wolfenstein, Space Marine, Transformers, Call of Duty, Tomb Raider, Minecraft, Ratchet and Clank. I've got
a life. You've got what you would have over the life cycle of one console generation. You've basically got, and I think an interesting conversation we have to have is which games you should play in order, because I would not devote myself to more than 3 games at a time. And I'd say if you're playing, I think it may be beneficial if you're playing 2 games that were similar. So you were playing 2 third-person games. You were playing, say, an Assassin's Creed, maybe with an Oblivion. There'd probably be crossover. You'd understand how progression works in the game. You know how they dole out different mechanics. You know, now you're halfway through the game, you've got a shiny dagger that you can use, or you can use the throwing knives or something. It would sort of give you sort of a different understanding at not how progression is used in different games, but also the similarities. And I feel like, for me, when I got those games in Christmas, I'd shove them in my Xbox and I'd play the first 15 minutes, and then I would swap in and out. And I feel like if you have a couple at the same time, it's actually quite beneficial. But if you devote yourself to one, you get tunnel vision.
I couldn't do that. Actually, it's interesting you say that, because there are 3 games that I'm playing reasonably exclusively. So since I got all the games, I've been just whacking them in, playing a few minutes, but I've been drawn to 3. And so one is Conan, and I'm only probably a quarter of the way in. I just killed the Sand Dragon, and I only had to go on YouTube and cheat 1 or 2 times to work out, how to get through a block.
See, but those aren't cheats. Yeah. Those aren't cheats.
I still had to do it myself, yeah.
Yeah, because what you have to appreciate is sometimes games don't really communicate what it is they want you to do, and if there is a playthrough, it sort of signifies that there's a need for it, and you'll go through sites. But I think one of the things you really have to, especially as you progress through the console generations, and especially if you're playing on PC, is the temptation to not have to think, because all that information is out there, and I'm not sure how you're struggling with it.
No, I try to do it myself most of the time. So, you're talking about similar games. Well, believe it or not, Conan and Tomb Raider Anniversary are very, very similar. I mean, there's more dismemberment in this game, and here you're shooting wolves and bears, but there's lots of exploring temples and buildings and things like that. And for Tomb Raider, I've been able to solve most of them, and I felt quite proud when I solved them. But there was just one section towards the end of the Peru sequence where I had to open Quasi, whatever his name's tomb, and I opened 2 of the gates, and I opened 2 of the locks, and I couldn't work it out. I'm like, why isn't this gate open? So there was a 3rd lock, and so I had to just watch the YouTube video to work that out.
I'm just going to warn you, do not play any Dark, because I saw I've seen you've got Darksiders.
Picked that up for $5.
$5. Now, this is a notorious game, because when it came out on PC, it had the worst port, so it was glitchy. But I've had a weird relationship with this game, which is it was one of those games that harkened back to it's sort of the early Zelda platforming type 3rd-person action games. But this was the first time I got roadblocked, and I'm talking about 2011, 2012, and that doesn't regularly happen, where every time you hit a puzzle, I get frustrated because it overloads you. It overloads you on mechanics. I'm just overwhelmed even explaining it, because they will give you grappling hooks. They'll give you pressure plates that you have to step on. You'll have the ability to make yourself into a clone, and then you've got portals that you have to use. That, I feel, is good to start on. Do not touch this until you have played every platformer that exists, because you will be and the allure of this game is you get to play as Death, you get to play as a Horseman of the Apocalypse, but they don't tell you that you're going to be solving puzzles for 90% of the game. But that was an interesting experience for me, because I hated that game. I vehemently hated it.
Did you finish it out of spite?
I finished it entirely out of spite, because I said to myself,
won't beat me.
I will not. Okay, look, there was a Steam sale and I paid $3 for it, I think, and I thought, you know what, I have to finish it, because you're going to develop, at least for me, I developed, it's almost in the same way as when you go out to eat, when you finish what you're eating and what you've bought. And for me, if you got a game, you have to finish it, even if it's a horror game. That's another example. If you've got, did you get Dead Space?
No, don't know.
Okay, so I wouldn't play that around any kids, but that is when I first picked up that game, that would have been in 2008, 2009, I think. The sense of dread and fear, I did not play that game for an entire year, and it was the amount of shame I had, because there is nothing more effective in a video game than jump scares. It is 100% more scarier. It's 100 times more scarier than when you're watching it, because you're in the game, you're feeling it, and you have to respond. You have to respond to it. It is
every time a wolf, a bat, or a bear gets me in Tomb Raider, I yell.
Where did it come from?
I'm so relieved when I've blasted it to death.
Unrelenting.
It's like die. But,
yeah, unrelenting. That's what I mean. The video games are very stoic things. They don't care about how you feel. They will scare the crap out of you, and they've got that freedom to do it. But a game like Dead Space, and it's not even that. I have to show you. I mean, there's so many things I have to show you. There was a tutorial game made by Hideo Kojima. It was called PT, and this is a first-person game, and the premise of the game, the core gameplay loop, is you're in a house, and you're just going in a circle. You walk through the hallway, and then you get into the basement, and then as soon as you go into the basement, you open the door straight ahead of you, and you're at the start of the hallway again. It's a freaky cycle, and there's subtle variations every time. There's a door that's open, then you start noticing that there's a presence in this hallway, and then it's following you, right. and it's incredibly scary.
The ghosts are messing with you.
It's incredibly scary. And the only thing you could relate that to when you escaped in Oblivion, and
punching rats in the dungeon or the bottom of the castle.
That undead thing that came at you.
Yeah, I haven't seen one of them since killing it.
You'll see more of those, but that for me it was one of those moments.
That was the yelp.
What is that? It was one of those moments. Like that holy, oh no, I can't believe they've just set this on me. But
get away from me! Get away from me! Burn it with fire!
Yeah. Actually,
it's interesting that you're talking about Oblivion, because before we finish up, I just want to talk a little bit about this game. And so, I picked up, let's see, where are we? Oblivion.
Do not touch
Oblivion
Skyrim.
And Skyrim. Oblivion was $2. Skyrim was $3. And I was looking at them, and I was vaguely familiar with Skyrim. Some people on DeviantArt had done some fan art and things like that.
As they do with everything.
And I just thought, no, it wasn't erotic fan art, it was real fan art. But I just thought I'd better start with number 4, not number 5. And so I started playing. So this is the third game that I'm seriously committed to. And yeah, it's I'm loving it. So I got to choose my character. And you start off as, a prisoner, you're worthless, you're in chains, and then suddenly you build yourself up. So you go from punching rats, to killing goblins and picking up their odds and sods and all their worthless stuff.
You cross the threshold real quick. That hero's.
Then I have my leather armor. I'm now wearing, mail, and I'm looking a lot better. I've got a katana. I've been ditching all my iron weapons now. I've got steel weapons.
Nice.
And it's just great. And it took a while to get into, but I remember I sent you a text, and I'd said something like, "I've delivered the amulet. I've got myself."
Let me
read it. Yeah, read it.
Let
because
me read it.
yeah.
Let me read it.
it was a bit of a laugh. You know, I felt such a sense of achievement from being that chained up prisoner to what I was now.
Okay, so let's read it. Oh no, there's so many. Let me just read. Okay.
He's my
I've delivered the amulet. Now I have a steel claymore, armor, and a horse. Just rode past some bandit effers and a wolf. Didn't need to fight because I'm so fast. Finding the air.
I found the air.
Found the air.
I found the air, Sean Bean.
Is he dead yet?
No. I found the air, and then I went into the netherworld. I closed the gateway. And
The
then
gates
I broke
of Oblivion they are called.
I closed one of them, and I broke the siege. I've taken the air back to the monastery. The monastery, of course, was attacked and the amulet was taken. So we took the air with Joffrey to the Blades Palace up in the sky, up in the mountains. After that, I rode back to the Imperial City. I met Barris, and we started collecting books.
Is he the Red Guard?
He's the guard who the Emperor was killed with.
Oh, okay.
And so I've got the books. I've got all of the books now. Barris unfortunately died, but I've got all the books. And I went to a tavern, and I didn't like the fact, this sounds really weird.
Barris died. I remember
Barris died.
You did not defend him because I remember he becomes a killable NPC after a certain point in the game. And
He ran too fast. I was following through the sewers, and he ran too
Killed
fast.
by rats.
And I was meant to be hiding when he had the meeting, and unfortunately, I heard he got killed. I killed the baddies, and then I searched them. I found the fourth book, and it was brilliant. I climb out of the sewers, and it's raining. I'm sick and tired of rain. It's always night and raining. It's never a beautiful day all the time. So you know what I did? I went to the hotel, I booked a bed, I went to sleep, and it was still raining. And so now, I've paused the game, I am sitting in a chair, I've got the 4 books, and I'm going to read them.
You're going to read through
Yeah,
them?
that's my bookmark moment, you
Yeah.
know? I've got to read through these books, so I'll find myself somewhere comfortable, and I'm actually sitting opposite little elf weasel who was trying to get the 3rd book.
I think
I pressured him into giving it to me.
I think the time. Did you intimidate him or did you?
I just told him, look, these dudes, they're like involved in killing the Emperor, and he just crumbled.
See, I think during my first playthrough, especially when you're a kid, you enjoy the fact that you can kill anybody without repercussions.
I haven't murdered anyone. All I've done is I've stolen a horse, and these bloody guards, they just keep, every time I talk to them, you're under arrest. And so sometimes I resist arrest and die, and so then I just restart the game and do it again. Other times, I just ride away.
Does it have a fine that you're able to pay?
Yeah, but sometimes I don't want to go to jail.
But how much is that? No, they'll have a fine.
Yeah.
So if
I haven't been paying the fines.
don't if you pay the fine. I think if you pay,
They'll be off my back if I pay the fine?
they'll be off your back if you pay the. But here's the problem: if it's a very expensive fine, if it's in the thousands, you may not want to do that because that's something you could spend.
Do they take my good stuff? Will I lose my katana? Will I lose my arm?
Any stolen goods will be taken from you by So not if you take it off a dead body. That's not considered stolen. That's
okay.
That's found.
Yeah,
that's found. You're possessing it. That's almost squatters' rights. But if you stole property, and I think it should be marked red in.
I've been avoiding theft.
Yeah,
So you're saying if I pay my fine to John Law, they'll be off my back?
Yeah.
I think I'll do
Or you may be committing a crime by riding a stolen horse.
that. I got rid of it, and now I'm riding one of the monk's horses, and so it doesn't. Yeah, because my stolen horse, every time I'd get off it, would walk away, and so now I've got a good horse because my stolen horse sorted off, and so. Actually, I don't have a horse. I left it outside the bloody city gates, and now it's gone. So now I'm on foot. So I'll probably get another horse.
If you were evil, and I'm kind of interested about how you're playing the game, are you going?
I'm virtuous.
You're virtuous.
I'm virtuous. Second play, I'll be evil.
So the funny thing is, the game doesn't compel you to do that. You can do whatever you want, and you can play.
It's just my nature.
It's your nature, and I think that's a common theme when people play Bethesda RPGs, is that they will internalize their character and play as it, even though there are no boundaries in the game that are going to stop you from being incredibly inconsistent. So you could do a quest where you are serving some virtuous god of the 9 divines, and you have to find something and save a whole bunch of people, and then you're donned with a holy sword or wherever it happens to be. And then 10 minutes later you can come across a Daedra shrine, which are these devil demon sort of gods, and you could be murdering people, you could be doing the worst thing in the world, But I think it's just interesting that you'd even know that, and you're still you've internalized
I'm on the straight
your
and narrow.
character.
I haven't been doing any side quests. I've been just doing the main quest. That's where I've got tunnel vision. I'm focused on that. I couldn't give a damn about the missing farmer or the artist or the what was the other one? The prophet or things like that. Maybe second play I'll go do those, but at the moment I'm just, we've got to get the amulet and the heir. We've got to close the gates, and so that's where
I
I'm at
feel
the moment.
that personally, I always felt like that was a weakness with the Elder Scrolls games, that the game didn't have your dialogue sort of internalize all your past actions. So if you're playing the game like a massive jerk, the dialogue I feel should change. It should cut, but it doesn't. So but that's one thing with the game.
So you're saying my good deeds aren't giving me a good reputation?
No, they do have reputation mechanics in the game. So you may, so say for instance, if you're a horrible person, you may have a bounty on your head that you do not know, and then you'll have assassins come after you and try to kill you.
I think I've got a few $100 bounty on my head.
Yeah, and you'll find a note with the assassin. Kill this person, he did this. And I think that may have been a Skyrim mechanic. I'm not sure if they have that in Oblivion, but once you start playing the Mass Effects, the Dragon Ages, the Witchers, where they give you dialogue wheels, and it's not you talking, or rather, it's not you choosing dialogue
Multiple choice
responses.
dialogue.
Well, there is multiple choice dialogue, but it's being said by a character. It's a paraphrase that's said by a character, and so now there's a demand on the writing and on the acting to actually have your character acknowledge what they've done in the past. And so if you're playing as a monster, say in a game like Fable, and you've got a silent protagonist in Fable as well, but you're not going to be able to play that because you don't have an Xbox. There are physical repercussions. Your character grows horns. You look like a devil. You'll have cracks in his face. People will be scared of you. As
Evil on the inside leeches out.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was really fun in that game because I remember just wiping out an entire village as a kid because you're just experimenting with how far you can take the mechanics. The guy who developed, the lead developer for Oblivion, Skyrim, his name's Todd Howard. And he made the point, which was, as soon as you give a player a gun, as soon as you give them a way to interact with the world, they will use it in any way possible. And this reminds me of Fallout 3, where you get a BB gun, and this is where they start introducing the mechanics where you can start shooting things now. The cute thing about it is, well, you're a kid. You're a kid, and you're also it's developing your character and your relationships with everybody else. So it wasn't just this strict tutorial session, which I think you haven't found yet. Like when you start playing Call of Duty, it's an obvious go to the shooting range and this is look up, look down. But this was integrated with narrative. It was integrated with dialogue, and so as soon as many players got the BB gun, they'd shoot their dad, and even though there's no justification for that, and so he had to, and his take on it was, well, we had to make dialogue just to accommodate for those
to say, look,
idiots that I was going to shoot. Yeah,
but the nearest thing you get to that is in Oblivion. If you accidentally hit your own guy, they go, "Hey, we're on the same side."
Yeah, they've got that. But it is an incredibly punitive game, and I feel like if you accidentally kill a chicken, if you accidentally pickpocket somebody, it is maximum punishment. Everybody will try and kill you.
Yeah, those bloody guards.
The guards will try and kill you.
I don't talk to the law. I'm scared of the law. I'm scared of the law. It's like, yeah.
No, but do you know what? That's an issue with, I feel, how the AI was programmed, because the game itself doesn't have its animations aren't that good, where NPCs are particularly accurate when they're fighting things. So, say you're in a particular point in the game and you have guards near you, and you and the guards are teaming up against, say a murderer or a demon or whatever it happens to be in the game, and one guard may accidentally shoot another guard, then those two guards are now going to start killing each other. So it doesn't. There's no intuitive logic in that game. That was fixed in Skyrim. In Skyrim, you're not really going to have those issues. But as I was saying, like, when you start playing the game,
that's why I want to play them in order. I don't want to go backwards. And I suppose it's like anyone. If you get into cinema, you know, you've got to do the back catalogue. And so
Yeah.
that's what I'm going to enjoy doing. And I think, yeah, we'll probably be making some more updates about how I'm going with each game. So this
The man out.
is Geek Dad out.
Okay.